Hello, everybody. This is the Queen Azizah Nubia, and I am back on another Monday for Money Mondays. And I have my good friend David with me, and we're here to talk about finances and how we can create generational wealth and just how we can overall have better financial habits. This is our second stream, and so far the feedback we've been getting has been amazing. Everyone loved the information you gave about budgeting. They wanted those free downloads for the budgeting sheet. So if you are interested in the free download, make sure you just check out go to naturalwomanmagazine.com and click for your free budget download. You'll get that information. But I'm just excited just for another Monday to learn just more about finances. And I know you got some good stuff in store for us today, David. How are you doing?
Amazing. I feel great. It's a rainy Monday, but we're here to bring some energy and, get everybody excited for a new week. So, let's get this going.
All right, awesome. So last week we talked about budgeting and we talked about how you can, what do you do with the extra cash that you earn? How can you use it to help you prepare for long-term and short-term goals? So this week you have like you taking it to a whole nother level. It was kind of easy last week, but we're talking about taxes and diversifying. So I'm gonna give you the floor, and we'll take you to where we're gonna talk about today.
Okay, awesome. Figured with it being tax season, we kind of talk about tax rates and how they affect your dollar. So with this first set of slides, I wanted to kind of show people how taxes affect that money that you're making every year.
Okay.
And, we'll kind of go over ways that you can guard against it after that.
Okay.
Let's see how this goes. Okay.
And I know one thing while you're doing that, when it comes to taxes, what I've learned, like when you're a 9 to 5 worker, which is nothing wrong with that, you get excited around tax season because you get the income tax. But when you move more into being a business owner and you're actually making income, you're not so much concerned about an income tax. You're worried about the taxes and the tax breaks and the tax cuts and all that kind of stuff. And that, like, under having that type of knowledge is really, really helpful when you navigate business. Because some people will be shocked to where when they start a business, they make some good money, income taxes, they think they're going to get something back, but then they end up having to owe the government. So I'm so excited that you're bringing this topic because it's so different from business owner taxes from a regular working worker tax.
Exactly. And that's the thing is I got friends who, they know how to write everything off and they have CPAs that they go to. And I have other friends that just will not listen. And like you said, they end up owing back a lot of money every year because they think it's just all about what they, make. And they try to, there's people that try to hide some income under the table, but what they don't realize is, you actually want to report as much as you can. So that way you don't end up getting audited and, the IRS they're not nice people.
Right. And one thing I'm learning is that they're always watching people who think they're getting away, especially when it comes to the digital money. As long as your social security, bank account, all that stuff is attached to whatever money you're getting, they're going to see. And they will just sit back and watch till you get a certain level and then come after you. So,
Yeah, and then you're Wesley Snipes, and don't
yes.
be Wesley Snipes.
So stay on your taxes. Like, get them done. Don't be afraid of them.
Okay, awesome. So I just want to make sure, is it showing the slide on the screen?
It is showing on the screen. All right.
Okay.
Yep, we're here.
All right. So what we're going to start with here is kind of how compounding interest works, and like I said, how that affects your dollar. So let's just say over the course of 20 years, just starting off with $1, how that works. You start out with 2, 4, and as it climbs, over that course of time, by year 20, you're looking at over $1 million that you have in income, right?
Right.
So now, how do you think the taxes affect it? How much money do you think is going to be left over once Uncle Sam gets his greedy little hands in there?
Hmm. No, you probably would. You probably gonna have about 45% left because they taking at least 30.
Exactly. Exactly. So that $1 million ends up becoming 81,000.
Oh wow.
You're looking at almost $1 million, and that's just at a 24% tax bracket. So yeah, it hurts just even
Yeah.
again. Now, if you went in there and you diversified, and you're looking at year 20, you're going to actually get back around 800,000. So you definitely want to look at diversifying your taxes and make sure that you're, getting into those three different buckets, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But again, I figured, kind of leave it here for a second in case you had any questions.
No, okay. So this form is just basically how it's the I guess the value over the dollar over the last 20 years. A lot of people say that the value of the dollar is declining. Like eventually that the dollar won't even value anything and it'll be something else to replace it. Is that somewhat true or what you're saying?
I personally am an avid supporter of the U.S. dollar, and even more so after this last 3 years because the U.S. dollar hasn't been stronger in a long time. Just because, I mean, it's the it's the number one currency that around the world. It's what everybody uses to back their their funds. So as far as I'm concerned, digital currency is a nice little bubble economy that happened, but um, unless something crazy happens here soon, I think that one's came and went. I mean, Bitcoin has a little bit of value to it, but again, it went from being like almost 70,000 to now it's worth like maybe 20. So like it lost over 3 times its value just in the last year. It's come and went. The dollar, though, I mean, even with like the yen and all the different currencies like the euro in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
there's U.S. dollar is just going to be strong for a long time. I just don't see anything really replacing it. So definitely stick with the dollars.
Stick with the dollars. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. So okay, let's go to the keep going. Let's break it
All right.
down first.
All right, cool. So in that case, we'll go to the next one. Is it showing here? Let me
I
see.
do not see it. I can move it.
Let me
I don't know
see.
if you have to switch it.
Yeah, let me stop this screen and then do a new one. Sorry.
Yeah, so like and guys, I can't even stress how important it is if when we talk about wanting to create generational wealth, wanting to create, have better finances, like this is the information that you have to know. You have to, this is financial literacy. You
Exactly.
gotta understand them. And the more money you make, the more you have to understand taxes. So
Yeah, and I definitely want to try and make this as fun and simple as possible. And I actually have a couple of different friends that are second, third generational wealth, and I'm one plan to bring on and kind of talk about how it's affected their family and speak more on the positive side of it. Actually, one of them's a funeral director, so she can definitely speak to how it affects families and you know just both sides of it. But
okay.
here we're going to kind of look at the value of taxes and where they've been at and where they're going and why I think they're going to, go back up here in a bit. So you would definitely want to guard yourself against this when you're either retiring or just even in the short term. You just want to be very aware of how tax rates affect your dollar.
But
So
the tax rates are different in every state, correct?
you do have your state taxes, but with federal and just with the way it works in general, this is typically an average of what most people pay in their over their lifetime.
Okay.
So starting all the way back in 1913, there was like what, like 8%,
Mhm.
and that's back during the industrial age when you had people like Rockefeller, Carnegie, those guys that pretty much ran the world at that point. And once you see around 1917 when the antitrust laws and all the different things that the government did to try and protect the worker, got in there, and depending on how much you were making, you're looking at a 70%, almost 80% tax rate. And as you see over time, during the Great Depression, they lowered it just because, people weren't making any money. The economy had basically crashed at that point. And once we got back into during around World War II, you're looking at 90% tax rate. Um, and that was, I want to say that was rough times, but obviously there was a reason why they had raised it that high. But as you see over time, they generally or gradually lowered it, and by the 2000s, we were looking at 40% tax rate, generally for most people, and they kind of hovered around there. But then
Mm-hmm.
2019, they cut it again, and all you've heard about for the last 30 years is how the deficit is going up, and it's what I like 30 trillion. Right now, and something's going to have to give in order for them to reduce that. So, more than likely, I would believe that they're going to raise them here. Not instantaneously, but just be on the lookout for when they start to go back up.
Yeah, because the tax rates, they matter, especially the more money you make. I noticed, for example, I know lottery winners, they get taxed off of, like, if they took a lump sum of money. When they take the federal tax, and correct me if I'm wrong, they say they're taxed based upon where their, like, tax bracket is at, based upon how much money they make. So
Eats it up quick because they don't
yeah,
use. Since they're just a normal person and they don't really have any. It's just straight up income. So yeah, it's just ate up by the government, and it's pretty up there. I think it. I mean, like I said, it's around this percent of 40-30%.
yeah,
And while that's low compared to what it's been, again, if you're somebody that wins the lottery the next 20 years, you could be looking at that 250,000 a year that they say you're going to get. You might get only like 100,000 of it. And so again, going back to that last slide, the value of a dollar and how those taxes affected it, it matters.
yeah, it definitely matters. All right, told y'all can take y'all notebooks out today. Okay.
So now here, oh, and this is where tax deferral comes in and why that
Okay.
matters.
Tax deferral. So I never heard of that word. So what is tax deferral? What does that mean when they say that?
So tax deferral is so essentially that's like, for instance, your 401k, right? So that's tax deferred. So instead of paying money that year, you're going to pay money when you take the income out of your, whether it's Social Security or your 401k, pensions, if those still exist for the company you're working at. Um, and instead of paying your taxes now, like you do with a Roth, you're going to pay them later. So we'll get into that here in a second, but again, this is why the tax deferral got involved, was just because tax rates were so high at that point. So people were trying to
Mm-hmm.
pay as least as possible. So when you see your 401ks come out, and right now those people might be coming out looking good because tax rates are really low. But if you're somebody who's looking at your 401k and thinking that's going to be the only thing that, or you're just traditional Roth, or not Roth, but traditional IRA, just be aware that this is something that comes into play with that.
Okay. And so it changed. I guess. Yeah. So the more money you make, basically, so that's, oh gosh, from the 80, if you made over 215,000, the tax rate was 70%.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the main reasons, again, that those 401ks and IRAs got a lot of usage. But because the
Uh,
government's smart, they made it to where you can only contribute $6,000 a year into one without any penalties being involved.
so how is it that they say these Fortune 500 companies now, they pay zero to little taxes? And they make billions and billions of dollars. Is it because they are knowing the tax cuts and credits and stuff like that to balance that out?
Exactly. I mean, they've
Okay.
got some of the smartest CPAs in the world working for them, and with that, they know all of the different write-offs, how to, again, like I have a friend, he bought a truck for himself, and he's able to write it off against his own company. So um, there's a lot of ways to write those off as losses, and that offsets the taxes that you would pay or the income you would have. And that's like almost asking the question, like, why are there three McDonald's on Glenway Avenue or around that area in Western Hills?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're constantly building. Like, yeah, it's to kind of give people easier access to the restaurants, but it's also because they're constantly able to write those things off. They would write off the money they're paying their employees, and so on and so forth. Writing off the 401ks that they established for those employees. So it's just all those different things that come into play with that. Um, they use that to offset, and half the time either pay zero in taxes or they come out somehow, getting money back.
Mm. That's interesting. I know one of my I guess becoming one of my favorite actors, Country Wayne. I that he did an interview to where he talked about how he purchased his home in Atlanta, and he uses his home for his the videos and movies and skits that they make. And he said he did that because he could write his house off as a write off now for taxes. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that. Like that's how people get around that. So I thought that was just interesting to talk about for people to know, because people always want to say that the big corporations, they don't pay taxes and they take from us and they take from us, but it's pretty much basically get you some good CPAs, y'all. Invest
Yeah,
in a
it's
CPA.
it's a game. It's like Monopoly. If you're the banker and you know all the rules, you're going to probably be the one that comes out ahead in every time. So
Right.
I like to think, just know the rules and know the different things you can do in a game, and you can win too. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, is let everybody in on the game, and hopefully lift some people up if they're looking to get there.
That's awesome. So, what are some of the best strategies that you can give? And if I'm going jumping ahead of what you have presented, tell me. But I know people are thinking about, like, okay, so what is the strategy? How should I go into creating the best strategy for me when it comes to taxes?
Yeah, definitely. So that kind of almost leads me into the next slide, which is, let's see here. Let's see if I can get it to show up now. See, I'm getting a little quicker with it.
No, it's definitely good. This is good. This is good information. Definitely
Hopefully,
good
you can.
information. Good to know.
Oh yeah. So that one's a little ahead now. Let me make sure, is it showing now? Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. So here's the three buckets, and this is where that diversification comes into play. Now,
Okay.
like I said, I don't want to steer people away from 401ks or traditional IRAs or anything like that. One thing I would say as well is, and this is where that diversification comes into play. Like, definitely use every bit of that match that you can get from your employer. But one thing you want to do is anything above that, you want to start putting into that, um, you know, that tax-free bucket as much as possible. So, you know, you got your 1099, right? I don't know
Mhm.
why it's showing up, like, there we go. So it's like showing up that blur. It wasn't like that. Now you got your taxable, which is your tax now. That's
Mhm.
your lottery winners. You got your tax deferred. That's your 401k, and you got your um, tax free, which that's where you get into that life insurance conversation, and a few others. So I'm gonna kind of show that now, and this kind of shows all the different things that are you know, your different option that you have.
Okay.
So savings, CDs, brokerage accounts, real estate, business income, and a few different other things that's your tax now. So even with like crypto, right,
Mhm.
I can come into that tax, the tax now. So
Okay.
um, your tax later, that's your 401ks. IRAs, annuities, other different like deferred compensation plans. So, so there's a few other things, and I'm going to bring those into play on another day. I'm going to have to get those slides. So I apologize for slacking on that part. I thought I had them on my computer.
No, so I had a quick question though. So for the tax later, so 401ks, so they're not taxed as they're building up. But when you want to take money or draw that money out, that's when it gets taxed. That's why it's taxed later.
Exactly. And
Okay.
even with that, you can't take it out to your 59 and a half, because if you do, you're going to pay that extra 10%. Because I know a lot of people, as soon as they, whether they leave an employer, get fired, whatever, they always cash out their 401ks. And you don't
Okay.
want to do that. You want to let that money build. Now, what you want to do is you want to roll that over and own like your own private account. So that's where it goes from being a 401k into an IRA. But because you're going into, from tax deferred to tax deferred, and they're both qualified accounts, you don't pay anything on that.
Right. Okay.
So even with that, like I have, we have an annuity product. So because a lot of people go into a regular brokerage IRA, the like Fidelity, et cetera. But
Mhm.
we actually have an annuity, and the reason why I like that is it's a 1.3 flat percent that you pay on the money that comes in,
Mhm.
but that's only on the money that comes in. So let's say you put 100,000 in, right? So what you're going to pay $1,300 as a fee for that, but that 100,000, you're only going to pay that yearly fee on that 100,000. So let's say in 5 years it's worth 150 or more, you're still only paying on that 100,000. Let that grow over 20 years. Again, you're only paying on that 100,000. So, and then we actually have oh my, why I can't think of the word on it. Oh, that's gonna say I can't think of it. I'll think of it later, but I apologize.
No,
Yeah,
it's okay.
having a brain fart at the worst time. But so going into your tax free distributions, that's your Roth accounts, 529 plans, so college savings, and muni bonds. So not a lot of people are familiar with that, just because over the last 10 years, the tax rates have been so low that they haven't had much value. But now that, or not tax rates, but interest rates, sorry. But now that's
Mhm.
gone back up, municipal bonds are starting to get a lot more focus on them. So those are kind of nice in that aspect. And then, below that, that's your cash value life insurance. So that's your whole life if you're more aggressive.
Okay. Okay, so those are the three tax buckets we need to think of when it comes to taxes in our income, knowing what's taxable, what's tax deferred, and what's tax free income. Tax deferred means tax later. Taxable means tax now. And then the tax free is no taxes.
Exactly. So you want to get as much into that as possible. And one of the cool things is now with 529 plans, you can roll those over in Ross if your kids decide not to go into college. So you get a little more flexibility on what you can do with that money, but you definitely want to get involved with an expert to show you the best way to do that.
Okay.
Because
Hey, y'all. CPAs, I really do feel that
yeah,
the need for CPAs, especially with the rise of entrepreneurship and more businesses, like don't try to do the H&R Block and do the taxes yourself, because you can really limit on the type of breaks and just the things that you can gain from hiring a good ass CPA. I can cuss on here, but a good CPA. Like you need a good CPA. So
no, yeah, CPAs matter for sure, and I'm going to try and get a hold of some and try and get them on here to kind of talk more about that.
yeah.
And like you said, I was always one of those people that used H&R Block with TurboTax, and it's very limited. There's a reason why it's cheap. Same thing with general brokerage accounts on Schwab, Fidelity. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking them. We partner with these companies. We have different funds with them. But it's one of those things where if you're paying for nothing, you're going to get nothing.
Mm.
And as much as like Robinhood got a lot of hype during the pandemic, and you would always hear about these people that game stonks and all that, people making money off of just manipulating the market for themselves. That company is now having a lot of issues, and those people that were taking the stimulus checks have now all lost it. There was a news report like last week or the week before that I read where it was talking about how a lot of those people lost all their money and then some. So don't go out here like it's what's those betting apps like MGM Live and FanDuel. Like it is like gambling, but you don't want to gamble with your future. It's not worth it. Just get an expert involved, whether it's a CPA, financial advisor. We give out free consultations, so there's a reason why we're here.
Yeah, and that's definitely smart, especially now. I know here in Ohio, the betting apps now, everybody gambling and betting on games, and people are winning a lot of money. Like I've seen people win $25,000, $30,000, $15,000 when it comes to the games, but then like how that goes, they have to be able to pay taxes on those. And I think with the gambling, don't is it tax deferred? I think with those type of apps, or is it taxable now? So do they take the taxes off automatically, or are you responsible for paying those taxes?
You are responsible for paying those taxes. So that 30,000 that you take in and you go and blow it on that trip to Hawaii or wherever, um, you're going to pay on it at the end of the year. And if you're somebody who, depending on where your business is at or where your job is at, if you don't have that money, you don't have that 38% of 25,000, 30,000, you're going to be hurting. I mean, of course, the IRS works with people, but do you really want to be paying them money later and making that a part of your budget at the end of the year?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to win it, but just don't be reckless with it.
Right. Win it and be mindful. And then that's the whole point of why I was just so excited to put this series on, is to get that education, because there's a lot of people who are in that type of position that win and don't even think about taxes, or feel like, oh, if I don't claim it, then I'll be okay. But it's like, hey, that the place where you bet it from, they have to report that. Like it's
Yeah. Like
they are gonna know about it. You can't get
Uncle
around it.
Sam is going to get his. Do you
Yeah.
want him to get his when it's cheap or when it's going to cost you a lot of money? Because even if the IRS works with you on those payments, best believe they're going to find a way to, make you pay more money because of that fact.
Right. Yeah, so it's just, hey, this is good information to know all the way around. Get those big wins. You know, you got to pay taxes on it. Just put it up to the side, let it sit there and wait. So when you do your taxes at the end of the year, you're all set. You won't have to figure out like, oh gosh, why did I go to Jamaica? Like, why didn't I put 30% of the 30,000 I want up? So it's just this is all great information to know.
Oh yeah, and then like going back to that, with the CPAs or again with a financial advisor, that's where you can try and find a way to put that money away and not have to worry about those taxes later. You'll know what you're going to pay. You'll know if you can invest that money instead of having to, go and do something fun. Because even if it kind of hurts having to put that money away, at least you know that you're not going to be paying for it later in the worst kind of way. If you have a
Right.
house or you have other assets that you own, I mean, again, don't be Wesley Snipes.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we're making fun of him. I love Wesley.
I love Wesley. Yeah, I think Wesley, his thing is not so much that he did. Well, he didn't pay taxes. He was it's a thing where people become what, sovereign in the UCC laws, and somewhere in the mix of that, they feel, if you claim your sovereignty, you don't have to pay the taxes for the United States. But it's always some loopholes in that, to where I just never 100% believed how that plays out.
Yeah,
Because some kind
exactly.
of
Like,
way they found something because they got him. So
yeah, and that's the thing where sometimes that's where you want to make sure that you have a good CPA, but one
yeah.
that's not just good at their job, but good morally. Because if they're misleading you on how you can play around with those loopholes, but they're not telling you how you can, get in trouble for that. Like that goes a long way. And at the end of the day, again, you don't want to be in that situation where you're in trouble with the government because they did just hire what 79,000 or 7,900 new agents to go out and start auditing people. Because again, for the last decade, they haven't really been on that with people, and there's been a lot of folks getting away with that. But Uncle Sam is going to get his. So just be on the lookout and make sure that you're on the level with everything.
Mm. Right, right. And I'm glad, I'm happy that we're talking about taxes, because I know in my community, and I say black people, when it comes to taxes, like it's like government taxes. We do a lot of underhanded business dealings just because we try to avoid the taxes. A lot of times people are like, oh, because I just don't want to deal with it, or I don't want to give my money. But what I've realized, when you are 100% legitimate with your business, reporting your income, doing your taxes, you end up saving a lot more, especially if you do have a great financial team, good CPAs. But then it's nothing to be afraid of, y'all. It kind of makes you a smarter business person. You learn more about finances, and that's another reason why I just felt that it was just so important to bring this series up. And I'm happy that you even brought this topic up, because a lot of people I know just from business want to bypass this part. This is the stuff they don't like when it comes to finances or money. But it's like, how are you going to get more wealth? How are you going to build more wealth? How are you going to make sure that your wealth can be passed down for generations to generations if you don't deal with this type of stuff, and get this information to pass down to your children so they will
Yeah.
know what to do and know how to navigate, so the wealth can stay in the family. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that I love about having, conversations with some of the people I know, because again, having a friend tell me about how she's a third generation, wealth, within her family, and how that affects and plays out. And, again, being a funeral home director, seeing the families that are crushed by those generational curses, and um, seeing how that affects them negatively or positively. Because, again,
mhm.
people have those life insurance policies out there, whether it's whole life, term, etc. Um, that that's tax free money that's going to your family. So if you got like $100,000, $500,000, $1 million policy, and something happens to you, that's $1 million that's going to your family, or 100,000, five, whatever, and they're getting that money tax free. So obviously, nothing can replace the loss of a family member or someone you care about, but having that money to take care of those worries and concerns that most families face afterward, or that loss of income, definitely again goes a long way, and helps you. So that's a conversation we'll have more of, or kind of come up with, over the course of time. But again, I just kind of want to go over that with people, because, like you said, they're scared of these things because there are companies out there that aren't on the level that are for profit. They're not mutual companies like my own or others that are out there. So because of that, they're just trying to find ways to make money. They're not looking to take care of their clients or families. Um,
Right.
so they might sell you term and tell you that it's a version of whole life. And um, yeah, that I've had families I've had to have that conversation with it. It does not go over well, unfortunately. Um, and yeah, sorry, go ahead. I didn't know if you had any other questions.
No, do you have some more slides?
Unfortunately, I do not. But
Okay.
like you said, like, don't be afraid of being on the level of having money, over the table instead of under. Like you're saying, I mean, I'm mixed. I'm from the West Side, so I've seen nothing but the same thing. You've got your mattress millionaires that they've made a lot of money, but imagine if you have this money and you actually put it into brokerage accounts or anything. Uh, you could be worth so much more, or your family could have so much more. So don't be afraid of having those conversations, of reaching out to people. Of course, my information's here. So definitely reach out to me. I'm going to be putting this couple of slides out there, and hopefully just everybody takes advantage of it, and reach out and get that free consultation.
Yes, definitely sign up for a free consultation. Consultations are just there to help you get an idea of, what type of help, what type of services you need, and to answer any type of questions you have, guys. It's 2023. We got to take our finances way more seriously, especially if we're talking about generational wealth, building our wealth, knowing what to do with money, knowing what are short-term, long term goals, and then how do you even build for long term future Like this information is useful. And the fact that it's just being given away for free, like I really just am grateful for this opportunity, just to get this out. Um, so as far as wrapping up, what are some key things we need to know and take away? Especially tax season is happening. People are getting some extra money. I know before we talked about not spending it all, try to invest it, try to, start saving. Last week you broke down the 20, 30, 50 rule when it comes to budgeting and saving. So, what are some key takeaway tips that we need to get from today's talk?
Yeah, I mean, again, just gonna kind of keep beating that dead horse. Get a CPA or an advisor involved, especially if you just got money from from your taxes, or if you haven't filed them yet. There's different ways that you can try to write some things off where you might not have to owe as much, and just definitely just get someone involved. Like, don't be afraid to get someone involved. Even if it costs a little bit of money, because like again, going back to the free consultations, those parts are free. Get your budget sheet together. Get your, like there's different websites. Again, if you get me involved, I can give you access to that can find those lost 401ks that you completely forgot about, that there might be some money involved, and just see what all you've got and how you can take advantage of it.
That is super awesome, guys. Make sure you follow David under his Facebook page. We have the name right there, and then I'm gonna put his email up again. If you have not already, make sure you visit Natural Woman Magazine. We have the free digital budget download that David presented us with last week when it comes to budget. Because I know a lot of people were hitting me up like, how can I get that budget form? Where can I get it? So we have it available. If you go to naturalwomanmagazine.com, and you'll see it on our front page. Just click the link, put in your email, and you can get it downloaded. And then we'll also be able to share more information on how you can book your consultation with David, so he can get you on the right path to financial success, y'all, because that's what it's all about.
And that's it. Just free game, and just trying to get everybody in the community lifted up, and just show everyone, why you shouldn't be afraid to, invest your money.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of money, y'all.
It's
Money's not
money.
evil. It's a tool. It's nothing else but a tool for us to build with, to help us, do some amazing things. But you don't have to be afraid of it. You don't have to be afraid of taxes. You don't really have to be afraid of Uncle Sam. Just hire you some good CPAs to handle
Exactly.
that part, and you can be as prosperous and as abundant as anybody else that you see out there who you think is they just have it all. You can have the same thing too, because 9 times out of 10 they have the CPAs, they have they have financial advisors that they can go to get this type of information from. So it's
Exactly.
important.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say,
No, I was saying it's important. Yeah.
yeah, very much. I mean, you want to have a team. Make sure your circle isn't just a bunch of people that you like to hang out with. Like, get professionals involved. Get professionals around you. They're not going to point you in the wrong direction. Again, there are people out there that do bad, but don't let those people steer you away from everybody else, because there's always that one in a million, whether that's good or bad. And just make sure you got people that are putting good information into your mind, and take advantage of it.
Awesome, awesome, y'all. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. This is our second Money Monday, sponsored by New York Life Insurance. Thank you so much, David, for coming on here and sharing this information. I definitely learned a lot because I did not know about those 3 buckets, and they're called like that. So that just added more to my knowledge. I hope you guys have enjoyed this series, and continue to enjoy the series. If you have questions, just leave them in the comment section. Thank you for everybody that's watching on YouTube and on Facebook right now. But just simply post your questions or inbox me, and you'll see us again next week with another amazing topic for Money Mondays. But until next time, y'all, peace.
See y'all.